Okay, and hello everybody. This is Chris from the Stuart Buzz, and today we have some interesting guests. Sort of in a sad way. Can't even say it's in a happy way right now, but anyway, welcome. If you want to introduce yourself, then you can do that as well because it's easier to do that.
Good morning, and thank you for having me, Chris.
My pleasure.
My name is Dornette Mullings, and I'm the twin sister of Calvin Berry, who was the mail carrier here in Stuart for a number of years. I want to say at least 10 to 14 years. He was a postal delivery person for about 30 years, 15 years in Miami, and then the latter 15 years he moved to Stuart because he relocated to live in Port St. Lucie.
And he was I call him the mailman of Stuart. That's what I call him.
He's a very talkative person, very friendly person. And I would say Calvin has never met a stranger because even if he meets the person for the first time, they were his friend. He would
I would
say,
agree.
"This is my brother, this is my sister." He loves to talk.
I would agree, and he would actually deliver my mail. The mailman's today, is that proper English? I don't think so. The mailmen today, they'll put it. We have a box over there. Calvin used to come in. He used to come into my store right over there, and he used to just say, "Hey, Mr. Amazing, how are you today?" And we would chat, and just like you probably would, everybody down here. Brings me back to my childhood. By the way, I'm just going to quickly brief that I still know my mailman's name when I was a kid. His name was Mailman Ed.
Yeah.
He would have lunch over a house. I don't think I look like Ed, by the way, so I don't think I really came from him. But anyway, everybody in the neighborhood know Ed. He was just the mailman. That's the way people think here of Calvin, just so you know. So,
He's old school. Calvin was old school.
yes, actually, old school, but not old heart. He always seemed to have a smile on his face. And when he didn't, I would ask him why.
Well, he was a people person.
Yeah.
He loved to talk. And he also loved to give jokes. He loved people to be happy and cheerful and laughter. That's what he embodied. He wanted everybody to be happy, no matter what the circumstances are. He found a way to make you laugh.
I agree. And your name, young lady?
Name is Kathleen Gossett. I'm the cousin of Dornette and Calvin.
The cousin.
Yes.
Uh-oh. You got to watch out for those cousins, that's for sure. So there's some stories beyond this whole thing. March 11th is when Calvin passed away in 2021.
Correct.
His birthday was in December, by the way. I did my research. But it was all a shock to us that Calvin was no longer delivering our mail. And that's Bright Line. Probably not going to be heard by the recorder, but Bright Line's passing by. But it was a shock. So there was another mailman. I'm like, okay, so Calvin must be on vacation. And then the rumors started going around that Calvin was not going to be delivering the mail. And we were kind of surprised. Tell me what or how it was originally thought that he passed.
Well, I received a phone call at 3 a.m. on March 11th from my brother's wife to say that he was missing and she had called 911 and they were there searching for him. My call was at 3 a.m. and I'm like, what?
Yeah, I just need to interrupt you there for a second. So at 3 a.m., she calls. So, like, to me, if my significant other goes out for a walk or something like that, unless maybe his wife fell asleep and then woke up at 3 a.m. and called you and said, I don't know where he is.
Well, there's so many changing stories that I really don't know what direction to go. But
Right.
I received the call at 3 a.m., which is totally not something my brother would do. So I said, what do you mean? Is he not home from work yet? She said, oh, yes, he came home. And then at some stage, she said to me that he took sleeping pills and she thought he was sleepwalking. And I'm like, okay.
Is that something you've done before?
No, and it shocked me because, we're Jamaicans. And we grew up in a country, in our little district, where we were accustomed to boiling bushes. So we had a tree or a leaf that we would go to for different ailments that we had. So if we needed, if we had a headache, we know what tree to pick the leaf and boil to drink. We never took medicine. And that was shocking to me.
Right, because he was taking somewhat like
He
Benadryl or
said,
something similar
well,
to
the
that.
Benadryl came after, but she said he took sleeping pill, and she actually told me the name of the sleeping pill. She spelled it out to me, and I said, let me look it up. I never heard it before, and I looked it up, and when I googled it, it was alprazolam.
Alprazolam is actually
Yes.
a serotonin, not a serotonin reuptake.
It's a
It is
controlled
Xanax.
substance. It's a controlled substance.
Yes,
And I never.
it's a generic name for Xanax.
Yes, yes. And so I looked it up and I called her back and I said, well, this is not a sleeping pill. This is an anti-anxiety medication.
Correct.
And she said, he could be sleepwalking. So I said, did you look outside? And she said, no. And I said, well, when the sun shines, you will see him outside under a tree because,
Right.
as you know, he loved to plant.
Sure.
He loved gardening. He loved his tropical fruit trees. And so I said, maybe he's outside. Why don't you look outside? But that was troubling. A 3 a.m. phone call is very alarming,
Not knowing where he is.
and it's
Out of his
so
character.
Totally, totally out of his character. Totally.
So typically, when he goes outside, he likes to walk barefoot. Is that something that he does?
I've never heard that before until she mentioned it. I don't know why she thought he was barefooted, but that was the narrative that was going around, that he left barefooted.
But when Kelvin was found,
He had shoes on. And what was alarming about the shoes that he had on, they were a pair of Skechers sneakers,
I have them on right now.
but they're laced Skechers sneakers, but they were not laced. They were not tied.
Right.
So-
Like the young kids wear these days.
Well, and if you had those on underwater for 3 days almost, why are you found with them still on?
Right, they would fall off.
They would have fallen off. They had no mud. They had no sand. They had nothing to say that he was underwater. And these
But
are the troubling questions that I'm asking.
Well, of course, because you had an autopsy, I'm sure, and probably found the water in his lungs and stuff like that, because he did drown. So that would pretty much shore up the case, right?
Absolutely not.
What do you mean?
There was no water in his lungs. And this is why I kept asking the medical examiner, what are you talking about? Your report shows no water in his lungs.
Okay, so how does one drown and not have water in their lungs?
This is what the medical examiner need to educate us on. And I kept asking the medical examiner, I keep asking the
And what does
Port St. Lucie Police Department.
he or she say?
She has no response. She has no answer.
Okay.
She is the associate medical examiner. She's, quote unquote, for me, in my opinion, unqualified, and gave that opinion that is not checked. I mean, an associate medical examiner should have someone overseeing her work.
Or somebody writing it off and saying, okay, this is what
and
I
it's
see.
unchecked.
Just to let you know that everything that is being said today is, I'll just say, in my opinion, I'm not either way, back or forth. I just want them to share their story, what they have. So did the chief medical examiner sign off on the autopsy?
No.
Was the chief executive officer, chief
No.
medical examiner, X to?
Involved. No. And I actually sent a letter to her, and I was told to send it directly to the associate medical examiner.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So it's out of character for him to be walking around at 2 a.m. anyway,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Because, like all of us, we always carry our cell phones with us, right? I mean, 'cause he probably would have called and said, hey, listen, I am not feeling well or something like that. So I'm pretty sure that he probably would have carried his cell phone with him. Why wouldn't he have called his wife?
I don't know. She said the cell phone was left behind.
Oh,
But I was troubled by the 3 a.m. phone call. And one of the reasons why it took me, like something is off was when she called, she never said to me, "Have you heard from him? Is he with you? Have you heard from him? Did he call you?" She just called to tell me that he's missing, which is totally out of character for him. How could he be missing? He's a grown man. He went to work that day. He worked all day. He
By the
got
way,
home.
you are cheating on the microphone. I mean, on the headset thing there. So I can see you're going to get feedback eventually if you could take it off your ears too much. Just letting you know. Nice try, though. So anyway, I would agree. So when I see Calvin, and he would always be a ray of sunshine. No, everybody has their bad days. I will tell you that. And when Calvin has his bad day, he would drive by and just wave, but they're very far and few between. So his wife, I don't know who she is, and I don't know if the story is true or not true. It's just something that you just said that he left without issues.
That's what she said. And in the police report, she called 911. And I don't remember, I have to go back to the 911 call, if she mentioned that he left without shoes. But she did say that his phone was left behind, his keys were left behind.
Well, how would he get back in the house? You typically leave your doors open.
She said the side door was open, but she never went outside to look for him.
Okay, just me. I mean, this is just me. If Jeannie, the wonderful individual that I live with, was to go out to walk the dog, right? And then she decided that I fell asleep on the couch or something and woke up at 3 in the morning and I didn't see her. First thing I would do is go out and find her. That's me. I'm not saying that she didn't do the right thing or the wrong thing. I'm just telling you that's what I would do. So when I'm assuming she must have fell asleep, and by that time she realized Calvin was missing, and she called you right away because
No, well, she never called me right away. She called me after she called 911.
Right.
And she said she was calling her daughters, and the two daughters, their children, my brother's children, they live 10 minutes away from their parents' house. And she said she was calling them and got no response. So for a good 6 hours, they were not reachable.
Well, I will say though, if you tried calling me at 3 in the morning, there'd be no response as well because my phone's on vibrate inside. I told you before. I won that bet.
Correct.
So they could have had it on vibrate. They could have been off and whatever. That's true.
Why didn't you drive down there? But the police, I don't know how the police got to one of the daughters' house and knocked on her door for 7 minutes. The police was there, got no response. Left without connecting to the daughter.
So you kept on knocking on the door, no response, so they left.
Banging on the door. And they knew they were at the right house.
Right.
No response. And this is what my question is for Port St. Lucie Police Department. Where were they? Look into it. I do not want to accuse anybody wrongfully. I do not want to accuse my brother's wife. I do not want to accuse my brother's children, but I want to know what happened to my brother.
You want to know what the answer is. So if the coroner's office would just get back to you and give you a simple explanation as to why the water was not in the lungs, or why this is happening, something that would make sense to you.
Yes.
Because right now, well, you said about the cell phone. His wife said the cell phone was left there,
yes.
right?
Yes.
So did she look to see when his last phone call was? Maybe he got a phone call and his friend called and said, "I'm going to come pick you up," or something. Anything like that?
Well, we know that she called 911 at 1:30 in the morning, and Port St. Lucie Police Department responded within 10 minutes.
To her house.
To their house.
Right.
So they were there by 1:40. And it was about 3 or 4 police officers were there by 1:40. At 2:54 a.m., his phone rang and the call was answered. by her, his wife.
That,
And
is that speculation? Or?
no, it's a fact.
Oh, okay.
It's a fact. And I was taken aback that during the time that this call was answered, you call 911 for a missing person. There are 4 police officers on the scene searching for him.
Right.
That call is important. It says from a private number. It's very important.
Well, did when she picked it up, what did the person say?
She said nobody said anything, so she had it open for 54 seconds. She never ever reported this call to the police department. They were actively searching for him at that time, and she concealed that call during a critical time. A critical time when you reported a missing person. How is that possible?
So, you said Calvin's your brother?
Twin.
Right. Yeah, I can see that. But I'm a little confused because the phone went off she called the police at 1 something.
1:30. They
Right,
arrived
but
at
then
1:40.
she called you at 3 something?
Yes, she called me at 3.
And
And
did
she
you-
received
did
a
you get
call
a
at
phone call?
2:54 a.m.
I got some.
Called her within like 20 minutes.
That's interesting. So, so the police were not in the house when the phone rang.
Well,
They were searching.
they were with her, searching. So wherever she was, they were with her searching outside, maybe.
Right.
But one of the things that I found out during my discovery was the police, when they arrive on the scene, they stay with the person who called.
Right.
It's protocol.
Sure.
That they do not leave the side of that
Just
person.
in
They
case.
just in case. They stay with that person. So police would have been with her when that phone call came in. Now, it's possible somebody else answered the phone
It's possible.
and not her, but
Who would have been?
who was
Who else
there?
was in the house?
Who was there? Right.
Because I don't know the family like that, but did anybody else live in the house?
Not at the time, no. No. There was a week before the daughter was living there for 7 years, and she moved out 1 week before. The one that they were knocking on her door and she did not answer, she moved out a week before.
Disgruntled or just decided to move?
Both, because she purchased the house, and we found out after that she purchased this house. I mean, it takes time to purchase a house, going through all the
It does, trust me.
the processing, and he never knew that she was purchasing a house until she closed on the house. Is when she told him that no, she's moving, and she moved.
Were they
a week
close?
before. They had issues. They had, and my brother was, he was an old school. He wants his children to do well.
I am also old school, by the
Right.
way, so,
He wants them
my
to
kids
be-
hated me because I was old school.
He wanted them to be ambitious. He wanted them to achieve,
Not
to be
be lazy.
achievers,
Right.
and they were the opposite. They did not want that. So
Understood.
they had their battles as far as what he wanted for them and what they wanted for themselves. He, I think, accepted it and realized that that's who they
It is
wanted
what
to
it
be,
is.
and he accepted it.
Right.
The one daughter that was living there, she moved back in with a child, and she stayed there with her child for 7 years. And all he did was nurture and like a father figure to his grandson. He loved his grandson.
So did they reopen this case now that you came up with some discovery? And I'm going to ask you one more question, seeing that I watch Law and Order a lot. How did you come up with this discovery? How did you come up with this?
Well, the Port St. Lucie Police Department and Sergeant Fontaine, Robert Fontaine, I met with Chief Bolduc at the time, and I said, please, there are unanswered questions that I would like you to look into, please. And I went to his office and I met with him and I gave him a list of all these unanswered questions. And he said he would look into it. So he tasked Sergeant Robert Fontaine to go look at these questions and provide answers.
Okay, so we believe, he listened to
Yes,
you. I
and he
mean,
said, and he did ask, which Robert Fontaine, Sergeant Robert Fontaine was the boss of the lead investigator, original lead investigator, which is Detective Kristen Meyer.
okay.
And so he was tasked in looking to a second time now. So it was reopened. When then it got closed, and then
Why did it get closed?
because they didn't want to be bothered, I think. I honestly think they just did not want to be, they wanted under the rug. They really wanted it under. There are things that I said, and I brought a PI with me, and I said there are specific things. Who made the 2:54 a.m. call? It came through his phone as private number.
Right.
But the phone company knows who made that
Right.
call.
You can
So
find
you
that
need to
out.
subpoena the records to
Right.
find out who made that call. The chief did not do that, and he promised me he would, but he did not. The other thing that was,
Did they give you a reason as to why?
well, he did, but it makes no sense. But the other reason was the Benadryl. He had, when we got the toxicology report, there were high levels of Benadryl in his system. Where did that come from? And then if you go back and listen to the 911 call, what did she say on the call? He takes Benadryl to sleep.
On a regular basis?
But she said, but I don't know if he took it that night. So she introduced us to the Benadryl on the
Just
911
a
call from the
small amount of it?
beginning.
Did he take it just a small amount of Benadryl?
It was a large amount of Benadryl. It was a very large amount of Benadryl, which is also another part of an unanswered question. If
And not
he was
typical- not typical to
but
Calvin.
if he was so intoxicated with Benadryl,
And
how?
the Xanax.
Then how did he get to the canal? His gate was locked. His house is completely fenced. The gate was locked from the inside. Still locked from the inside.
So that means he would have to climb over the fence.
He did not. He would have to go through the side fence, go into the neighbor's yard,
Not typical of Calvin, I'm sure.
through the neighbor's yard, to go to the canal. Where is the forensic of that? Where is the footprint? Where is no struggle? Nothing. They had canine dogs and drone there.
Well, they must have picked up a scent over by the canal, right?
The canine picked up a scent in the front of the house, on the street, down to the intersection.
So away from the canal.
Away from the canal. So this is why, when I listened to some of the information, the narrative of the Detective Kristen Meyer, she said the reason why she did not call out a diver initially was because of the negative result of the canine and the drone.
Correct. So
she trusted them.
So the dogs are not picking up anything by the canal,
Right.
even walking towards the canal. They pick it up
Nothing.
on the other end. So she
Nothing.
said, okay, they're not by the canal,
It's
so
not
why am I
by
going
canine.
to...
So she trusted the canine, the dogs
Right.
and the drone. So when did the dogs and the drone became untrustworthy for her to say he accidentally drowned, he slipped and fall? So now she doesn't trust them anymore?
Well, could he have backtracked from where the dogs picked him up to the canal? But I'll answer my own question, I guess. But then wouldn't the dogs have picked that up?
The dogs would have picked it up and you would see someone that was so intoxicated with Benadryl. I mean, you cannot cover your steps and tracks so carefully.
Not at 3 in the
No.
morning if you're drugged.
No, and to make it go a step further, when I found out that he had so much Benadryl in his system, I called the maker of Benadryl, Johnson & Johnson. I called their poison hotline,
Really?
and I said, please, here is the toxicology report. What can you tell me? You know what they said to me? Someone with that level of Benadryl, the only thing they can do is crash on their couch,
Not walk, you mean?
not walk.
They would just like pass out.
They would crash on their couch.
And Calvin wasn't an overly large man.
Small.
So, like,
Correct.
he was thin.
Correct.
And if he took that amount of Benadryl, like, maybe a 400-pound dude might be able to handle a little bit of that Benadryl, but, Calvin was a small dude, and that probably would have made him crash on the couch, which I would assume, if he really did take this, would be his intent, because he couldn't sleep, I'm assuming. That's why he would take it, right? So there's no backtracking towards the canal
No.
via the dogs, anyway.
Nothing.
And then they decided to put a diver down, or
No, they did not. They did not. They decided against it because they trusted the dog and the drone.
so who found him in the canal then?
On 3 days later, there were some searchers who,
3 days later?
yeah,
3 days
yeah,
in a canal.
friends, yeah, his friends, decided to form a search group, and they were searching back there, and they saw something that looked like a piece of log floating on the canal coming down. And when it got closer, they realized it was Calvin's body. He was floating on his back down in the middle of the canal, which is another question I have for Port St. Lucie
Well,
Police
I'm just
Department.
gonna ask you, and I don't want to really kind of bring this back up again. I'm sorry that you had to deal with that, but that is, if it's 3 days later, probably 2 days of pure daylight.
Yes,
Correct.
absolutely, absolutely.
And canals don't have a huge current.
No, well, it's slow. It's a slow current.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes,
It's not a
yes,
huge current.
yes, correct.
So at least one of those daylight times, somebody probably would have seen something.
If he was there,
Yeah.
if he was there.
So he was there with his shoes on, but the autopsy does not show anything or any water where it's supposed to be when you drowned. And so I can understand why your questions. I just don't understand why they're not being answered.
That's my, this is my frustration. This is my frustration. And I'm a twin sister. We were born together.
Right.
A part of me is gone.
Understood.
I want
do.
answers.
I
I want answers.
no. Now, are you continuing to reach out on? So I worked with a lady in a murder case in New York, and she would call every week, and they just kept on pushing it off, pushing it off, pushing it off. Finally, 4 years later, that person is now spending his rest of life in jail. So I guess I'm gonna encourage you, if this is your belief, and this is, you think that something else might have happened, you don't know who, you don't know what, you don't know why, but if something else happened other than what you think happened, what they say happened, I would urge you to continue to reach out and try to find the answers to that. And this is why, one of the reasons I wanted you on here is so we can share this with people of what you feel, because I would never think anybody would ever want to.
Yeah, and
And I'm not saying anybody did harm
it's
him, by the way.
not much of what I feel, it's where the evidence points. And what I would like from the Port St. Lucie Police Department, truly investigate. I would love to see that what I think happened is not so. I
Right.
would love to see them clear all the persons that I think are involved, clear them. Do not let me have to go do all this work for them.
Did you think of maybe getting an independent autopsy done? And if so, would they have maybe found something different if you had done so? And if you did do so, and if they did find something different, what was it? That's a lot of
I do
questions
have
right
a
there.
forensic
Isn't it?
pathologist, and I do have his report, which does not align with the medical examiner's report. Let's put it that way.
Okay. I'm trying to think of each question very carefully. If it does not align with it, did you reach out either to any news organization, any media, even the police department said, look, this is what I got here. This is what I have here. What do I do?
The police department has everything that I have gotten professionally. They do. There are additional information that we have discovered recently. Well, yeah, late last year into this year in our litigation, it's civil litigation, and I hesitate to take it to the Port St. Lucie Police Department only because they don't seem like they are
Interested?
equipped, interested. They want to cover it up. They want to bury it. They want it to go away. At this point, I want a higher authority because they are so biased that I don't think that they are capable or able to
Well, the only
look at this.
higher authority, but that would be either the mayor or
Correct. Oh, correct. I mean,
or
whomever it is,
even,
yes.
I don't know, does Brian Mass take care of
I have spoken to his office. He is federal.
so therefore he can't do anything really.
He probably could, but I mean, I need to go, totally away from, I need to go.
So what you're saying is that your discovery, your search for the truth or answers, and mind you, the truth may already be out, but doesn't make sense. You're still searching for that. Is that correct?
Correct, because everything that I have seen points one direction. But I don't want to be left with this one direction, the unknown. I would like for them to clear it, investigate through a thorough investigation, perform a real investigation, not try to cover up and hide and dig a deeper hole.
So, just to put it out there, why would the police department want to just put this under the rug, knowing that what publicity it may give? I'm just curious.
It's a combination of things. And from what I have gathered in the discovery and investigation and the facts that I have seen, there were false reports made in the public records.
But I just need to cut you off there. Why would they do that?
It's a combination of things.
Just errors, or
It's beyond errors. It's not errors. I believe it's discrimination.
as in black versus white, or discrimination, man versus woman, or
Well, sexism too, yes.
Okay.
That's sexism, because if it was turned and my brother was the one that called to say his wife was missing,
Right, he would be put
her
in the-
body was found in the canal, he would be questioned, he would be in jail.
right?
So I think it's racism, sexism, and corruption. It's my opinion, my belief that this is where it is. And corruption in the sense that they did such a bad job of not investigating and came up with their own predetermined narrative that at this stage they're just going to continue to
They
cover
can't
it
be
up.
the judge and jury of everything. I mean,
They
they
keep
just
covering it up.
they just have to put the true evidence out there, and then somebody needs to come up with.
Well, the new chief in Port St. Lucie, which is now Nemzik, and he was the assistant chief at the time, and he really said that he thinks my brother was put in the water after death.
No, so
He believed that.
Wait. So if your brother was put in the canal after death,
Why? Why are you not doing anything? Why do you allow the medical examiner to say that he accidentally drowned? Why do you allow Detective Meyer to say there's no foul play?
but if they said that, what did you say after that? Like, okay, so if that's the case, why is this not being reopened?
Exactly.
I mean,
What are you doing about it?
and did you say that to them?
I did.
And their answer was?
I mean, they said that they looked up, they looked at whatever they could look at, and they don't have any more probable cause, and they are just trying to find ways to get out of a proper investigation.
Okay. What else happened that people don't know about? Because like this, I mean, honestly,
I can
Been
tell
in
you.
the store here for 9 years. And,
I can tell you on day 2, after his wife called and said he was missing, and they were actively searching, because she did not participate in any searches at all, day or night. She said
was
in
she
the
allowed to? I don't know.
yeah, why not? It's
I
her
don't know.
husband.
I'm
But she in the report with the detective, she told the detective that she does not like the bugs. It's too hot outside, and she does not like the darkness.
okay.
It was in the middle of March. So she never went outside to look for him. She never participated in any daytime searches either.
Because she doesn't like bugs.
I don't know.
We have, I mean, so off, you can spray on you. But, and
That
she,
was day 1.
that
Day
was day
2,
one.
nothing. So on day 2, there was a ransom demand.
A ransom
A
demand.
ransom demand sent to my brother's son, which is not her child. It's a previous relation. He has a son before someone else before his wife. So his son and one of their daughters received a ransom text message on their phones.
No kidding.
What's alarming is that for his son, it's not his regular cell phone number, it's a Google number that he doesn't even use much. So it came on that number, but it came on his phone. It came in at about 1:30 on the 12th,
PM,
March
AM.
12th, 1:30 p.m. on March 12th. Around 8 or 9 p.m., well, they did call the police, and the police brought them in for negotiating the ransom. And he was involved with negotiating the ransom. We have the video of that
What confuses
investigation
me?
in the
Like,
police
okay, so,
department.
he's a mail carrier, and nothing against mail carriers, but I'm not sure they're not millionaires. So they're asking for money.
The demand was for $7,000 for his safe return.
$7,000 for a safe return. Where did that investigation go?
That's another strange occurrence at the Port St. Lucie Police Department. The investigation, based on their investigation, Detective Meyer said the person who was making the ransom, the kidnapper, let's say, was someone in Dubai. And because the U.S. has no treaty with Dubai, they can't extradite someone from Dubai to face charges, so we can't do anything further. What's crazy about this is, when you look at the report, there were 4 messages that came in.
Any of them using Calvin's name?
Yes, they said they have Calvin.
So they said they have Calvin, a dude from Dubai. So, like, Calvin must be really well known because people know him in Dubai.
Well,
I
there
don't
were
think- I
4
don't know
of these
two-
messages. The police department themselves investigate those messages. 3 of the IP addresses came from Toronto, 1 from Dubai, within 60 seconds. So how
So
could
they-
this police department expect that the call was physically from Dubai?
Right.
Within 60 seconds.
I-
4.
And this is
3
a
was
Google
from,
number, right? Because I think Google numbers work differently than
Well-
regular telephone numbers off of towers.
Well, it so happened that these messages came in from an app called Text Now. I never heard of it before.
I have not either.
Yes, but just like WhatsApp.
I heard that one. I use that one.
It's an app called Text Now. That's where it came in.
Have you Googled that?
I have seen the app now.
have
I researched it, yes.
Good, because I'm research that myself.
And that's where it came in on that app. Well, somebody was spoofing.
Why would somebody spoof about something like that? What do they have to gain by that?
It's to throw things off. But
But
why would the
but what
police?
you're saying to throw things off, is that speculation, or is that or that's your belief? So you're thinking that that's what they did to speculate that. And only reason I'm saying that, and I'm not doubting who you are or what you're thinking, but I find it strange, just like you find it strange. You can't go from Dubai to Canada, by the way. It just doesn't work that way.
In 60
Not
seconds.
within 60 seconds. And if you can, I would like to know how, because I really want to go to New York and watch my daughter graduate. And in order for me to do that, I had to take a plane, which they seem to always be crashing at these points. So I don't really want to go on one. But I do know that you can't go to Dubai to Canada in 60 seconds. So did they not question the oddity of that?
No, no, no. They closed it.
So the case is closed right now.
Well, I don't know if the case is closed because the ransom was a separate case.
Oh,
It was a totally different case. Different case number, different investigator, different case.
but you don't know if the ransom case is closed
Oh,
yet.
yes, the ransom case is closed.
Oh,
Yes, yes, yes. Yes.
okay. What case is still open?
I don't know. They don't tell me anything, so I don't know if they never treated it as other than a missing person case. It was always a missing person case. So I don't know where they are with that.
Or an accidental death?
Well, that's
Is that the way they were treating it?
From the medical examiner said accidental. And I believe in my heart that the medical examiner made that ruling or that classification based on Detective Meyer.
Right. Okay.
Because I don't understand where Detective Meyer,
Well, he's not a medical examiner, so he can't actually say that.
She.
I mean, that's what I mean. Sorry.
well, but they colluded. To me, they colluded to come up with that classification because I don't understand why Detective Meyer think it's okay to just say, without doing an investigation, to say this is foul play. This is not foul play. And she did no investigation. She did no investigation. How could you have a missing person that you are in charge of investigating? You never even went to the neighbor who has camera?
Oh, is that true? Really?
Yes.
So the yard that he walked through,
Well, it's not the yard, it's the opposite yard, the two neighbors.
either way, look at the camera footage
never
just
went.
to see if
She
you can
did not go.
look at something like that.
She did not
So where the dogs actually traced him, right, and
Correct.
found the scent, one of those houses has to have a camera.
She did not. Detective Meyer's report did not look at any camera.
So I'm going to just tell you how easy this is to do, by the way. So see, these are my parents' ashes inside this locket right here. I must have left my door open and walked into my other store, which is right over here. Somebody stole this off my desk. It's always been here because I introduce my parents when I do my stuff, and it's always been here, right? So it was found in a baggie somewhere around here and hung on my door over there, right? Because the person probably realized it wasn't just a locket.
It had value.
It was ashes, and they're like, "Oh, you know, hey, I get to put this back because it's bad karma." Not that it wasn't bad karma stealing the damn thing in the first place, but little did they know. And it's so funny because I'm just showing you right now. See that person right there? Somebody's standing in front of my door right now at the other store. I have cameras all over the place, and I can tell who put it on the door. So I called the police and I said, I just want a no trespass order against this individual. And I just want my other parent found. They returned it with only one parent. Both of the ashes and the cylinders were inside here. So what I'm saying is that cameras are really, really useful in discovery and finding out, okay, oh, look, there's somebody at 3 a.m. There's not a whole bunch of people walking around. I am not one of them because I've been like falling on the sleepy couch after Family Feud. I can't imagine somebody not wanting to look at somebody's camera and saying, okay, we see him walking this way, or no, he's not walking this way at all. That would pretty much like close that section of the road.
Exactly.
And anyway,
Exactly.
that's what I would do. But I am not a policeman, and nor am I a detective. It's just that I know that what my experiences with cameras
Well,
are.
Well, I can tell you, she never went to the neighbor's house. She said, I mean, I don't know if she canvassed
And
the area.
this is the investigator you're talking about.
The lead investigator,
Right, the lead.
Detective Kristen Meyer, the lead investigator. I mean, everything about what she did is questionable. And I don't understand
Everything
why,
that she did is questionable, in
or did not
your
do.
opinion.
Well, I've gone beyond my opinion. I mean, there are facts.
Okay, I'm just.
I have reports. I have facts. We have. Was deposed. Everything.
So her boss, right? Myers' boss. You went to that person.
Well, I went to the chief. I went directly to the chief, and the
Okay.
chief gave the second inquiry to her boss. And he's the one that told her. I am pointing fingers at her. When he brought her in, I'm pointing fingers at her, and so she should sue me for defamation. That's what he gave her, unsolicited legal advice to sue me.
Police are now.
They're
From what
not, no,
that's what I'm told anyway. They're not
not
allowed to
supposed-
give legal advice.
he gave her unsolicited legal advice. So she gave me this lovely lawsuit.
As a matter of fact, with just to get back to this here, the police officer stood right here and he said to me, "Well, what do you want to do?" I said, "Well, what should I do?" He goes, "I can't tell you that. I'm not allowed to give you legal advice." I said, "Well, I don't want to have the guy arrested. I don't want to press charges. I don't want to ruin somebody's life for being an idiot."
Right.
You know, so he goes, I said, "So what's my other recourse?" He goes, "Your other recourse is to trespass him." I said, "Well, then I'll do that because I don't want it." So he literally just told me, and that's the reason I know that is that he said he was not allowed to give legal advice.
He's not allowed to be, but he's done it numerous times.
Because so have you done it? Has anybody
Fontaine.
has anybody
Fontaine.
brought that up?
There's filed an internal affairs complaint,
Okay.
and even that was done incorrectly because it was one-sided, very biased, and never investigated. They just asked him, and he said, "Oh, I didn't give her legal advice." The videotape is right there. Look at it. You'll see.
Oh, so you have the
And
videotape,
it's a
right?
video. And no, I never gave her legal advice. And they just said, exonerated.
So, okay.
The one thing I must say about the camera is that the neighbor tried, and this is why at first I thought maybe because I got a private investigator and I got the 911 call very early on while the investigation was still on. And I even said to my private investigator at the time, should I bring it to the Detective Meyer's attention? Because we could hear audible voices on the call.
Wait.
On the 911 call, when she said, his wife said she was home alone, but we could hear like someone was coaching her on what to say. So I said, should we bring it to the police attention? And he said, you know what? You should, because they usually don't listen to the 911 call. They're just looking at physical evidence.
Yeah, but actually, you can actually block out a certain point of noise and bring forward the other noise. Like I can do on this particular thing that we're recording this on, I can amplify the volume on this, or I can lower the volume on this.
Right. Well, we could hear audible voice. And so
Did it sound like a male or a female?
it's muffled. You really couldn't tell.
Okay.
But I brought it to the detective's attention. So I thought she don't despise me because I am bringing this up to her attention and she thinks that I want to interfere with her investigation. But then I have to go back and say, wait a minute. On day one, the neighbor went to her. The neighbor tried to get her to come and look at his camera. She never went.
Okay, no kidding.
She never went. You know what happened? 10 days when he realized that he had one of those cameras that overwrite, he took a USB copy of it and took it to the police station and left it at the front desk.
Where is that now?
It's at the police department. And I mean,
Does it show anything?
I have gotten something, but I don't see anything on it. But reading the police report and what it says and what I saw are two different things. They don't align. So I don't know if something else is there that I did not see, or I don't know.
So where does this leave you? Where does this leave you in the case, and where does this leave you? I, so I'm going to ask you a sensitive question as well. His wife, were you friends with her always?
I wouldn't say that we were like buddy friends. I never had an issue with her at all. I never had any
Now,
problems. I never
cousins
doubted
usually
her.
have issues with everybody. So,
No, I
did
never,
you have an issue with her?
No?
never had any
She's a
problems with
nice
her.
cousin.
Yeah. No, I've never seen anything alarming about her at all. I never had any issues with her. If I needed her, I called her. If she needed me, she calls me. As a matter of fact, I operate a wholesale flowers business in Miami, and they have their middle child is disabled. And I put her on my payroll and paid her when there was nobody was talking about virtual jobs.
But she was working, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, she was working. I gave her work to do. But the reason why I did that so that she could stay home with the disabled child and to help them out financially.
Sure.
I never had any problems with her. I never saw anything remotely, nothing
So
negative about
there
her.
could
Never.
be a reasonable explanation
Possible.
as to all this mishap.
Correct.
There could be,
Correct.
but you just want to know what it is.
I do.
That's fair to say, right? I mean, you have all this evidence. You in your head think, okay, this doesn't make sense. Not only, but you say it doesn't make sense. There are some professionals that say it does not make sense. So you just want closure of some sort of Calvin's passing, and you're not getting it.
Getting it from nowhere. Even in this civil lawsuit, in our discovery, I'm not seeing anything.
And it's 4 years ago now.
Yes,
wasn't
4
it?
years. I'm not seeing anything to turn me away. I'm not seeing it.
Well, I do hope I'm going to be sharing this video around, and I do hope that people comment on this. And I do hope you get the answers. If you need help from me in any way, shape, or form, if you want to come back and you find something else in discovery and you want to come on here and share it with everybody, you can do that as well. Is there any last words that you want to say about this situation?
Well, the Port St. Lucie Police Department need to be held accountable. They need to be more transparent. They need to look into credible evidence. Do not try to bury the evidence. Do not try to shut me up or gaslight me. I've spoken to others who are having the same problem with the Port St. Lucie Police Department. So it's systemic.
Now, do you have a petition stating that other people have had this kind of problem? I mean, this problem's pretty severe. I'm sure the other situations are not as severe as this one.
They are.
No shit.
They
Really?
They are.
But you're saying that they are. I just want to kind of go on the other side of things and say, what you're saying that they didn't do things correctly. You're not a police officer, are you?
No.
Okay. So
Forced to be one, though.
I think she's going to be one after this, or a PI. But I mean, could it possibly be done? Could the investigation have been done correctly to their standards, and you just not knowing the full standards?
No.
Okay. I'm just putting it out there because you seem sure that there's something, there's another story to this.
Well,
So it's your story,
have-
their story, and then the truth.
well, we have their public records. We have the records. We have the video. We have the audio.
That's a lot to have.
We have a lot of, and one of the things from the,
So why don't you take that info and go to the news?
I have done that. Yeah, I mean, you've heard some of it.
Okay, so-
I don't know if you've heard it, but there are news media coverage out there, and I'm talking to other national
news,
channels.
right?
Yes.
And so, in doing so, those news, and we won't even name the news people that you went to. I'm sure anybody can just Google Calvin's death.
Correct.
But what do they say?
They're alarmed. They are alarmed as much as I am.
Well, I would reach out to, I would love to have even Brian Mast or anybody talk and want to contact me. You can do that by 772-678-6170. Maybe we can actually do something to make the thing move forward, or at least just get our answers and get some closure on whether or not what happened was just a crazy,
Yeah.
coincidental mess of things than Calvin's passing, or there is something more sinister to go on. I don't know, and I don't know who would want to do ransom of $7,000, and Calvin at that point was alive, and they were going to give $7,000 and give Calvin back. Now I knew Calvin. I don't think that Calvin would say, I'm not going to say who it was. No, that's just not what I know about Calvin. Calvin was a fairly vocal individual in a good way, but he wouldn't tolerate, somebody saying, oh, like I see on TV when you have that thing around your mouth and, you're bound and somebody wants to, that's
They're
just,
gagged and bound.
yeah, it doesn't sound right on that whole thing. So I truly hope that you find the answers. I truly hope that you come back and tell me. Maybe we can have a closing when this whole situation is completely closed. I don't know. I mean, 4 years later, after this lady in New York that was working on the murder case, where her 14-year-old daughter, somebody climbed into her bedroom on the second floor and slashed her throat. And 4 years later, that person is now spending the rest of their life in jail. I am not saying that Calvin was murdered. I am not saying that Calvin died of natural causes. I'm not saying Calvin passed due to drowning. I am not saying anything because I don't know. I'm just listening to what you're saying, and what you're telling me doesn't sound normal.
It just means that they need to look in. It does require investigation, look into it further. And I mean, I want to remember Calvin. This is why I do the annual walk.
Sure.
Because I want truth and I want justice. We need to speak up against injustice and corruption. We need to make sure our voices are heard. And the police says, see something, say something.
Right, which I do, by the way,
Yeah.
because I saw a guy actually sticking a cylinder into the stop sign over by the mailboxes where Calvin used to put all the mail in. He was standing there looking very suspicious. So I called Lieutenant Shine over here, and
Oh, yeah, Lieutenant.
yeah, I called them up and I said, listen, you guys always say, see something, say something. Well, I saw something, I'm saying something. And it may be nothing but some wacko dealing drugs and putting cocaine up this thing and somebody coming by and picking it up. But I know there's something up there right now because I saw this guy do that. So a policeman came and he took it out. And it was actually one of those geocaching things where people actually go and search and find things. But what did I know? It could have been a little explosive. When somebody walked by to get their mail, they could have been killed. I don't know. But if I didn't say something and that did happen, then, I would have felt like, oh my God, it's awful that I didn't do anything about that. So see something, say something is absolutely the truth. I still go by that, and I will still continue to go by that. So I truly hope that you find closure in this whole thing, and I do appreciate you coming on. Your cousin here seems to be very talkative today, and that's awesome. That's a very nice color you have on, by the way. Well, why do you have that color on? Fantastic. Patrol car, dude. What do you patrol? Patrol the highways, as in a highway patrol person. That's very cool. Doesn't that say any I'll let that go. We don't want to bring that up. So, any other words for me?
Well, I just want others, families, to see what I'm doing and know that I'm here speaking out because I do not want any other families to go through what I'm going through. I should not have to fight so hard for truth, for an investigation. And I'll continue to do what I need to do to honor my brother and to make sure this does not happen.
Everybody, I'm just letting you know, everybody knew Calvin down here. He was Stuart's mailman. Now, I almost feel wrong saying he's a mailman because people say, oh, he's a mailman. No, he was a mailman. Like, he was the mailman. If you want to smile and you want to chuckle and you want to just wait for him to come by because he was always pleasant. And I'm sure, like in any relationship that you have bad days and you have good days and everything in life, you have good days and you have bad days. On his bad days, you can tell when he has a bad day because he kind of drives by and just waves. But I'll tell you something. Everybody down here, including me, that can make me cry, was crying when they found out what happened to Calvin. I was crying the other day when you guys were walking up with signs and passing our other store that was down there. And yes, I'm an overly sensitive dude, but that's how much everybody loved Calvin. I mean, it was just a complete shock that Calvin, it's almost like the hidden life of Calvin Berry. Like, really? That doesn't make sense.
Deserve better.
Yeah.
We all do.
Agreed. Well, I thank you for coming on. Please keep in touch with me, okay?
I will.
Have a blessed day.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.